So let's start with your beloved, hated, whatever the flavor of the day is, your Texans.
Okay, so Texans, we finished 10-6 last year. Won the division, won the playoff game, beat the Bills, and now we are kind of in a complete state of shock because we have traded Deandre Hopkins. So now, I mean, and although like I'm not one of those guys to say like we're better than our record or worse than our record, but we were a pretty bad or a pretty unstable 10-16. When you say,
It was everything was by a hair that you won or lost, or it could have been 6-10, it could have been 12-4. It
right,
was all just every game was like whether Deshaun's gonna just pull it out.
right. So now, I mean, let's just kind of go down the positions. We have a great quarterback. We have a good running. We have good running backs. We have solid running backs. Okay, our receivers, now that we don't have a true number one receiver, like I don't know. Our tight ends are kind of whatever. Our O line is, we have a left tackle, and I personally like Nick Martin. You know what I mean? I think Nick Martin is solid. And then on defense, what the hell is going on? you know, I mean, we got bright spots. I like Justin Reed. You know, uh, we lost DJ Reader. I mean, shit, dude. Like we're. I mean, I hate to say we're screwed, but damn, you know.
Yeah, your whole defense kind of revolves around two or three, four guys just playing either really well or playing at an elite level that covers up for other people, and that's
Right,
why you were
right.
able to succeed with Watt because he was able to cover up for pretty. You were able to put like three or four bums next to him, and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was able to do it for a while. But
yeah, yeah.
he's an old man now, so it's a different
hmm
world.
Yeah. So, I guess going into the draft, I mean, we don't have a first round pick. We have a second round pick because of the trade. I mean, I don't know, man. So, like, you want to go into that?
Yeah, so you have picks 40, 57, and 90,
Uh-huh.
and I've kind of looked at it as you're not going to improve this year no matter what you do because you
hmm
traded away Nuke and that's DeAndre Hopkins for the uninitiated.
Yeah.
Um, and you added running back, but I mean, how much better is David Johnson than a combination of Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde? I mean, they're
Yeah.
it's
True.
kind of a wash.
But I mean,
Unless
Lamar Miller's coming back. I
oh, is
mean,
he back? Is he
yeah.
okay? Well, he's good until he gets hurt.
Right.
But the whole thing is in terms of draft needs. I saw number one was the whole defense predicates on the ability to stop the run
Right.
first.
hmm
So you need to replace a guy like Reader to have
hmm
someone else possibly. And I figured that's probably the hardest value to get.
Right.
Um,
hmm
early in the you got to probably target that early in the draft because our receiver has more depth. Edge, you kind of need a specific kind of guy. You don't need a star.
hmm
So I would say you go in the second round with interior defensive line. Someone you have to target someone that's really strong against the run and has
Right.
upside potential against the pass.
Right. I agree.
So there's a guy named Elliott out of Missouri, I believe.
hmm
Jordan Elliott, I think his name is, and he's possibly there at that point. And you really just have to pray that someone drops at that
Right.
point to the second because you're not going to get any of the really amazing guys. Maybe you'll get lucky with because the draft's going to be so weird this year in
hmm
terms of backgrounds and physicals and all that
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
may be able to find one that drops and have one that character concerns. But who knows if you really want someone with character concerns to be involved with good old Billy O'Brien.
Yeah. Bill
You saw that.
O'Brien. I mean, now speaking of that, I didn't think that neither one of us necessarily planned to go in on this, but I mean, I feel like it's necessary with all the stuff that happened. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was loved by the city. It seems like all his teammates loved him. Deshaun Watson loved him, and I mean, to kind of to kind of say that he had a behavioral problem, was kind of far fetched. You know what I mean? And then, for Michael Irvin to come out with that, for that to come out that about the baby mamas, that was kind of it was crazy. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who knows how much of it is actual, but the fact that that's even a thought process and that's even something that's being floated out there
yeah,
as a option, something that may have happened, just shows you kind of where Bill O'Brien is in terms of relating with his players. I think the last time he really related with his players was probably with Tom Brady, and then when he was at Penn State, because he was able to kind of lord over them and be kind of the big head coach. He was the savior because he was the NFL guy, but that's a whole different thing.
yeah.
So in terms of the second need, I see the other thing with interior D line, you may also be able to if you kind of give up the fact that you may not be getting an elite run defender at this moment, you can probably get a more athletic guy that's better against the pass later in the draft. So that's
Right.
if they decide to go receiver earlier. And in
Mm-hmm.
terms of receiver, I think they have the speed element already with Stills and Fuller.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were them, I would target more towards sure-handed separation guys that have a potential to turn into maybe a Mike Thomas-esque. You're not going to get Mike Thomas, but
Right.
that kind of player. And in that circle, I would see Pittman Jr. out of USC.
Yeah.
I'm in love with him. It's kind of weird, but him and Ty Johnson from Minnesota are two guys that I've heard kind of
Ty Johnson, yeah.
linked to.
What do you think about? I know we've talked before about Laviska Shenault. Like, what do you think about him? Like he's a really interesting player, right? Like,
Yeah, but you need a guy that I don't know how. I haven't watched a ton on him, but I don't know how consistent his hands are.
yeah,
He seems like a guy that you have to really game plan to get the ball in his hands. He's not really a guy you can line up outside and have him run stuff the way. You need someone that can fill that Nuke Hopkins role.
Right.
Consistent, because you have a lot of guys that you can move around. And O'Brien, that's one thing Bill O'Brien's good at, is putting guys in situations that give them advantage in terms of leverage. Like you guys have always had like a bunch of different like scrub / developmental tight ends that you've been able to get production out of, just because he knows how to move the pieces around on offense. So I think you need to add someone that you have a vision for in terms of possibly being a starter. And the third need, this goes over the defense again. I think the secondary is as the secondaries is going to be. They may draft a young guy, but you have a lot of young guys. You have a lot of former first-round picks on the roster still that you've invested after they failed in other teams, and hopefully they work out. And linebacker's pretty solid with Cunningham and McKinney. Yeah. But the issue with them is you have to keep them clean, or else they won't have a chance to make any plays. They'll just get caught in the wash, and they're not big enough. They're big, but they're not great in terms of getting off blocks.
Yeah.
So that's why the interior D line is so important, and why Reader must be replaced. But then you get to the edge concept, where the best way to cover up all that, and you see this with the Giants back when they were winning Super Bowls, is that they have so many edge rushers that you just need to continue to add speed to the defense off the edge. And there's two guys that are good speed rushers, good enough against the run. They come from big programs. A guy named Greenard out of Florida, who was really great against LSU until he got hurt. He came in kind of banged up, and I was really worried watching that game. And then there's Terrell Lewis, I believe his name is, out of Alabama. He's one of those guys that's always flashed. Yeah, he's flashed a lot of potential, but there's an unknown factor, and it's all about coaching. I don't know who the D-line coach is anymore, who the defensive coordinator is at this point, because it seems is Romeo Cornell still there?
No, he's fired, bro. He's fired.
Okay, so they're bringing in. So maybe a fresh perspective will help, because he kind of, I don't know how great he was at developing players. He seemed to be too old to do that. There's a point where these guys get
Yeah,
old
yeah,
enough
for
and they
sure.
don't get involved enough.
Sure.
Not. I mean, there's guys like Rod Marinelli who's very hands-on and old, but yeah, I mean, those are kind of the three. Obviously, you look at the team and you see cornerback can always be upgraded. If someone drops that they think could start, they'll draft them.
Yeah, yeah.
At O-line, pretty much everywhere except for left tackle.
Yeah,
Where they
yeah.
gave up their firstborn for Laramie Tunsil last year. So besides that,
He
and
played
maybe
well.
yeah, he played well. He's a good player. You're just gonna have to pay him like a quarterback,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is interesting. And then there's also you always need another weapon in terms of tight end because none of your guys are extremely explosive. They're all kind of just role players, and maybe you add that, and that's the element that can replace.
Yeah, but I mean, what tight ends? What tight ends are gonna be there though? There's not that many freak tight ends for real.
No, I would look more in the form of a younger version of a guy you already have in Atkins.
Yeah, right.
Someone. There's two guys. There's the two Bryants.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to look at their names. I think it's Harrison and Hunter.
Yeah, right.
And they're pretty. There's some good move tight ends, but no one that you would project as like day one influence on the game.
True.
Because tight ends is one of those positions that guys very rarely come in right away and produce.
Right. Exactly.
So you would get it. It's kind of smart to draft later, but yeah, those three picks, they almost have to hit on every one of them if they want to even have a chance to be above 500 this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. I completely agree. So we'll see what's up, man. I mean, I think this is a make or break year for Bill O'Brien. Yeah, man.
So what is your what do you have as your prediction for the record?
I mean, I want them to go 12-4, 13-3, but realistically, man, I'd have to say that I say 7-9, 8-8. You know what I mean? But I said that the past couple of years, and I mean last year, and they did well again. So I mean, it's kind of like when Deshaun is healthy, they kind of, like you were saying, end up winning games that I feel like they probably shouldn't win. You know what I mean? So like I can see, like you said, like we said earlier, I can see it going 8-8. I can see us going 10-6, and also I can see us going 6-10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have y'all more at a 8-8, 9-7. I think you'll probably take a step back, a couple of games.
Yeah.
But that's mostly. Did y'all finish first 2 years ago?
2 years ago, I think Deshaun. Okay, so like the year before this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were first. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then you're still at that first place schedule, so that's not going to really change.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the defense is going to have to punch above its class, and Deshaun's going to have to be magic, and maybe you'll get to 10-6, but I'd probably 8-8, 9-7 best case.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's where. So probably second or third place, probably more towards third with some of the other teams in the division. But we will get to them coming up later.
Yeah. All right, everybody, like and subscribe. Peace. We'll be coming with more of these videos and other things too. All right, y'all. So thank y'all for watching. Like and subscribe. Peace.
And this is the Raise and Glaze podcast.
Right. Raise and Glaze. All right, y'all.